Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. Few managers have split a fan base in recent years as much as Mauricio Sarri has with Chelsea. Most managers usually have the majority of fans wanting them to continue or most wanting them to leave as soon as possible. Sarri has inspired strong emotions in the fan base, with most wanting him in or out and very few being indifferent. In the end, Sarri did leave the club, but what would the lasting memory of him be? Today we assess his time at Stamford Bridge and the legacy of Mauricio Sarri. Just quickly before then, if you're new around here and would like regular football videos throughout the summer, feel free to subscribe so you stay up to date. Anyway, let's get into it. So in order to assess his time at the Bridge, we'll break down his stint into these blocks. A brief background of his time in Italy, his preferred tactics, why Abramovich chose Sarri, his Chelsea tactics and achievements, and an evaluation of whether he was a success or not. Sarri, unlike most managers from his era, never went professional as a player. Instead, he balanced playing amateur football and working in a bank after failing trials with Torino and Fiorentina. When he hung up his boots aged 30, he kept his job as a banker, whilst working as a coach on the side, before eventually going full-time as a coach with Tegoletto. All of this means that Sarri grew up as a student of the game, studying the most effective methods from other managers which he himself could emulate. As a result, Sarri became an astute and detail-oriented manager, and this culminated in Sarriball. And Sarriball is the main reason that Roman Abramovich chose to bring him to the Bridge. Yes, Sarri did enjoy success, gaining promotion with Empoli as well as doing well with Napoli, but he did not win a trophy in Italy, so the style is what drew Abramovich's eye. And yes, Abramovich does value winning more than anything else, but he has been vocal in the past about wanting Chelsea to play an attractive style, as evidenced by his pursuit of Guardiola. So when Conte left, there was a lack of top managers available, and that, combined with the rise of Sarriball, led to his appointment. The term Sarriball is thrown about a lot, but what actually is it? Well, let's take a look. Sarri managed many lower-level teams in Italy to limited success and getting sacked quite often, but during his spell with Sorrento, that's when his particular brand of football became evident. After getting employed by Empoli, he guided them to the playoffs his first season, before rising to the Serie A the following season. When Rafa Benitez left after failing to qualify for the Champions League, in came Sarri, and it is here that Sarriball became mainstream. He took a team which had finished 5th the previous season to finishing 2nd, 3rd and 2nd, and in 2 of those seasons, expected points indicated they could have won the Serie A. During his 3 seasons, they always had the highest possession, the most goals in 2 of the seasons, as well as consistently producing high shot numbers, which is an indication of how attacking their game was. The defense, whilst not stellar compared to Juventus, did a solid job during the 3 seasons. Now let's dive into the tactics. The key pillars of Sarriball are high pressing, possession football, and fluid movement around the pitch. You may notice that this sounds pretty similar to tiki-taka. And yes, they share many traits. However, tiki-taka is slower and involves more lateral passing to move the opposition out of position. But Sarriball is much more vertical, with a bigger focus on moving the ball up the pitch and exploiting the smallest of gaps. Sarri heavily favours the 4-3-3, using it over 90% of the time during his time in Italy. In attack, he places importance on players who are comfortable on the ball, which is why he brought in Pepe Reina and Alan. The centre-backs move slightly wide during the build-up, and where most defensive midfielders would drop between the centre-backs, which would either draw the press to create space in midfield, or give the defensive midfielder time on the ball if the press didn't follow. Instead, Jorginho holds his position, and uses his one-touch passing play to play around the press. By drawing this press, Sarri needs 3 midfielders who are great on the ball, which worked at Napoli with a strong midfield including Alan, Jorginho, Diawara and Hamšík. By using 3 central midfielders, it would often draw a press, as Napoli wingers would move centrally as well. This would free up space for the third man run by the fullbacks to cross, and these fullbacks were very key to Napoli's attacking system. As the fullbacks tend to advance high up the pitch, the wingers tuck in and have a free-form attacking shape that depends on quick movement and interchange, so mobile forwards are important. But Sarri can use forwards who are good with their back to goal as a reference point for the wingers to play off of, as he did with Gonzalo Higuain. It's important to note that due to the speed of their attacks, Napoli were always very dangerous on the break. In defense, Sarri favours a high press with centre-backs pushing high up and Napoli trying to press their opponents into uncontrolled long balls or loose passing. However, due to this high line, if the first line of pressing is broken, they're vulnerable on the break, with plenty of space behind the defense as well as in front of it, so a sweeper keeper is a prerequisite. Sarri favoured attacking through Insigne on the left, with Callahan holding his position out on the right and arriving on the back post for a cross. Now let's move on to his journey with Chelsea. Sarri joined Chelsea when another divisive manager in Conte had just left the club. He was beloved in some sectors after rejuvenating the use of the back three in the Premier League, in addition to winning the League and FA Cup. But others were unhappy with the instability he had caused with players such as Costa and Fabregas. When Chelsea announced that Sarri would be the man joining, many fans were excited at the prospect of becoming the best attacking team in the league. But some had reservations as he was yet to win a title. The Sarriball label went ahead of him, and Abramovich sanctioned a loan move for Kovacic, pipped City to Jorginho, and made Kepa the world's most expensive keeper before bringing in Gonzalo Higuain during the winter. The team started off well, going unbeaten in 12 matches to start off, and things were looking rosy. But that soon fell apart, and by the end of the season, Chelsea were clinging on to a Champions League slot. So, what happened to Sarriball? What were the differences in tactics compared to his free-flowing Napoli side? Well, here's where we run into a counterintuitive problem. There was no difference, at least not intentionally. See, the problem is he tried to transpose his tactical style directly onto the Chelsea team. The problem with this is that no two squads are identical. At Napoli, he had shaped the squad into what he wanted over 3 years, and by trying to do the exact same thing with a different squad, it led to a cheaper imitation of Napoli rather than a premium version of Chelsea. Was this necessarily his fault? Well, when you hire a manager like Sarri, you're hiring an ideologue. Someone who, regardless of whether he's managing Napoli, Chelsea, Stoke or West Brom, will try to play the same way. So when you get a manager like this, it is crucial that you make significant changes to the squad in order to suit them. We've seen this at City, who signed a football director who had worked with Guardiola before Pep even came in order to adjust the squad to his needs. So with the limited transfers, the tactics looked like this. You had two centre-backs who were both competent on the ball, but when pressured would often play backwards or long. Alonso and Azpilicueta both understood their role well, getting forwards and backwards as required. But in the midfield, Sarri needed Jorginho at the base, which meant shifting potentially the world's best defensive midfielder to right central midfield. Kante is an excellent progressor of the ball when he's running with it at his feet. However, he's not as skilled at intricate passing movements like Alan. Kovacic or Barkley played out on the left, but both lacked the final third incisiveness of a Marek Hamšík. Up front, Sarri's preference for attacking down the left suited both Alonso and Hazard well, leading to Hazard's most productive season. Sarri has shown in the past he can play with a bigger forward up top, like Morata. But Morata's combination play was not incisive enough this season, often losing possession during matches, and when Higuain came in, it wasn't the same player that Sarri had at Napoli. He was older, slower, and lacking confidence. Callahan is a master of space and times his run into the box perfectly, but on the other hand, Willian prefers to play with the ball at his feet. See, the main problem when trying to implement Sarriball is that one of the key elements is simply time, and in one season, there is not enough time to achieve all his tactical desires. The players need to learn the incisive movements required by Sarri both in defense and in attack, and this is true of most teams who use a high possession, high ball rotation style of play. Given enough time, most Premier League teams will find a way to counter a predictable system. This happened with Conte's 3-4-3 in the past, and Sarri lined up pretty much the same way every week. As a result, most teams chose to man-mark Jorginho. When this happened in Naples, Jorginho had teammates accustomed to playing the style, who would provide him with many passing solutions. But at Chelsea, his teammates haven't perfected this, and as a result, he often has limited options. Sarri also uses a very specific pressing system, which is mainly ball-oriented and not man-oriented. This involves cutting off passing lanes rather than marking the man. It's a very complex system which requires time to master. This has led to Chelsea often having a disoriented press during matches. Another factor you'll note is that Chelsea often do press better in the first half before fading in the second half, an indicator of the lack of the high fitness levels required in this style, which is to be expected after having only one pre-season together. Klopp found the first problem in his first season at Liverpool. It is important to remember that in the prior season, Chelsea were playing a completely different system and at a lower tempo, which didn't require such high energy pressing. All of this, combined with the fact that Napoli had two elite centre forwards during his time, and at Chelsea his forwards were wasteful, led to many problems. It means that statistically, he had an almost identical league season to Conte, who was perceived to have had a poor last season, meaning that their finish position may have been inflated by some poor seasons from the other teams. But to call Sarri a failure or anything near the term would be an injustice. He reached the final of the League Cup and only lost to City on penalties, and he comfortably won the Europa League final against London rivals Arsenal. And in the league, his expected points were much higher than the other top 4 contenders. And he came third to points-wise the second and third best Premier League sides in history. So when we consider all of that, we begin to paint a fairer picture. His stint at Juventus will be interesting, as Sarri will be in charge of a dominant side for the first time and looking to win the league. And if you'd like to see a tactical preview of it, please comment below and let us know. This video was suggested by Boris Ose. Thank you very much for your contribution, and if you'd like to be responsible for our next video, leave your comment below. Remember, the aim is to start discussions amongst football lovers, so don't be afraid to leave a comment below. That's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.